is there really one right way to pack? Is there really one method that is the best thing for you to use? Yes. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to review the 3 common packing methods that are used, and then I will go over what I think is the best method, and then I will show you how to use that method. I'm Darlene with Plan, Pack, and Relax. Thanks for joining me today. Welcome to my channel. Let's get started. As we review the different packing methods today, we're going to think about it from the perspective of 5 different things. Number 1, how many times are you going to be changing locations on your trip? That makes a big difference. Number 2, what kind of bag are you using on your trip? Is it a backpack, or a giant suitcase, or a carry-on? Number 3, do you have weight and size limits? Number 4, what are you packing? What are you bringing? Are they long dresses? Are they suits? Are they a bunch of bikinis? And lastly, what are your personal preferences and strengths? So the first thing we're going to look at is the most common, which is folding. If you're wired that way, that's a great way for you to pack. And it's especially good if you've got kind of a short trip, maybe just a couple stops. It's also a great choice if you can unpack, if you can take your things out. On the con side, I've seen from my personal experience that what can happen is if you have stacks and you're trying to live out of your suitcase, it's kind of hard to find stuff and things can get a little messy. It's kind of hard to keep everything folded and perfectly in line as you move from place to place. And also it depends on what you're packing. If you have a lot of tiny little things like a bunch of workout things and bathing suits, or a bunch of giant things that are difficult to pack or you don't want to crease, that's a different thing. The next packing method we're going to look at is flat packing. Flat packing is where you lay your items straight and basically stack them up. You smooth them out and then voila, you get where you're going and your stuff is super smooth. Now, a con against that is, again, it's good for a trip where you only have 1 or 2 stops because you're going to have to get your stuff out to find what you need in these layers. And it will require you to repack, kind of similar to folding. Flat packing is great when you have items that you don't want to be wrinkled, like long dresses, pants, or suits that you don't want to get creased. And it, again, takes a moderate amount of time to do. Keep in mind when you flat pack, the item on the outside, or I should say the bottom, is going to be the least creased or wrinkly. Packing cubes are probably the most popular way that people are packing today, and I think it has the most pros but also the most cons. First of all, if you have a personality that likes to be organized, you probably are loving or gonna love packing cubes. So you could organize things like you can put all of your t-shirts in one bag, your shorts in another. You can also organize it by trip. If you've got the first part of your trip that's a couple days, you can put that in one bag, second part of your trip in another bag. We did 6 weeks around Europe, and I put my things that I needed for the last place we were going, which was a wedding, into a packing cube, and there they stayed safely in the bottom of my bag. Packing cubes also provide a little bit of a barrier, so they're gonna keep your stuff safe. If the things in your suitcase were to get wet or something leaks, your packing cube provides more of a barrier. Packing cubes are fantastic for any kind of bag. Good when you have a small bag, like a backpack or a carry-on. They fit in there very well and can help you consolidate your things in a small space. Whereas I don't know if I'd try flat packing in a small bag. So in that way, packing cubes are great for multiple stops. Now there are 2 different kinds of packing cubes. Packing cubes have the ability to compress. There are regular packing cubes and compression cubes. Compression cubes, essentially, you fill them halfway and there's 2 zippers along the side. You zip the second zipper to really take out any air, and you can squeeze a lot in there. That is great if you're using, again, a small bag and you're really trying to jam everything in there that you can without worrying about weight limits. If you've got weight limits, you might want to rethink the compression and just be careful you're not trying to get too much in there. Regular packing cubes are awesome too. You can compress a little bit in those, but just be careful that if you are folding inside your regular packing cube and you are trying to really stuff a lot in there, it can really result in a lot of wrinkles. So you might want to consider rolling. That's what I do with most packing cubes, actually. It seems to come out the best. And keep in mind that packing cubes can be used for other things. They can be used for your toiletries, your shoes, your first aid, really anything. They're super flexible. Now, some of the downsides, other than things may be coming out a little bit wrinkly, is that as you're putting things in the compression cube, you may find that the zippers stick. That can happen. Do read the reviews though. There are definitely certain kinds of compression cubes that tend to have more zipper issues. This is one, and I looked and saw it myself after I experienced it. I had to make the dreaded trip to the reception desk to see if they had the scissors to cut my stuff out of my bag. Anyhow, do look that kind of thing up before you buy compression cubes. Another downside is it can be hard to find things, but a way around that is to use a packing cube that has some kind of a vent or a hole. In this case, you can easily see what's in this packing cube. Now, bear in mind that when you do that, it does take away a little bit of that barrier effect, but maybe that's okay. Packing cubes can take a minute to repack. If you're taking things out and putting things in, just remember it might take you a second before you move to stuff all those things back in there. All right, so before I get to the finale, tell me now, what kind of packing method do you lean into? What have you used the most in your life? I have to tell you, I've done entire trips with all of these packing methods. And now I'm going to share with you what I think is the best method. Drum roll. The best method, I believe, is a hybrid method. I really think, hey man, we are travelers. We are trying to be out there to learn new things and experience new things. Why get married to a particular style? Because I change the way that I pack for every single trip, again, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm packing in a backpack, packing cubes are fabulous. But keep in mind, packing cubes have a weight. They weigh something. A lot of these packing cubes can add up to the same weight as a couple of shirts, a pair of pants, and you might want to do that instead. Now, I tend to opt to use packing cubes for those things that I can wrinkle. So undergarments, bathing suits, workout clothes, a certain amount of tops, and maybe even certain slacks. I flat pack dresses, nice slacks, or anything that I really don't want to see wrinkled, and then I fold other things kind of in between and fill in the blanks. I like to fill in the gaps in my suitcase. So the space in between the telescopic handles on the bottom, I fold items to fit in there because I don't want to waste an inch. So for my last trip, here's how I did it. I added those things in the bottom to fill the gaps. I like to fill them pretty full, almost on top of the bars, so that I create a flat surface. On that flat surface, I added my packing cubes, which were for my socks, my sleepwear, anything soft like that, and my toiletries. And then on top of that, because I had a deep suitcase, I did my flat packing. So on the very top, I laid out my garments and then closed the bag, and voila. And by the way, shoes were on that second level too. Packing is subjective, and it's fun to try new things. Come up with your own system. Be sure to hit the subscribe button like you're stuffing your stuff into a packing cube, and like this video if it's been helpful to you. Thanks and happy packing.